Well, it is all falling apart now for Prince Harry. Shocking new details about an apparently abusive email that he sent to the charity boss over Meghan Markle in just a moment. But first, news of a really bizarre fallout with one of the only women in the royal family who stayed loyal to him, Princess Eugenie, because another man came between these two cousins in the form of Piers Morgan. Fascinating. And this is really going to shake things up within the royal family. Analysis from Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, in just a moment. But first, let me take you through this reporting that was revealed in The Sun over the weekend. Now, if you're a regular viewer of Outspoken, you will know I first pointed to these shocking pictures of Eugenie and Piers and the impact that it had on Harry and Meghan a number of months ago. But it has gone mainstream now in a fascinating feature by The Sun's royal editor, Matt Wilkinson, headlined Going Spare.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's relationship with the press has always been volatile, but now a new feud is brewing.
Inside, forlorn and isolated Harry's life as spare to Meghan, and how he only heard about King's hospital visit on the news. So this reporting, which has been absolutely overshadowed by the very legitimate story regarding the Centre Bali charity, is really worth getting into. The Sun reports Prince Harry only heard his father was in hospital with side effects from his cancer treatment at the same time as the rest of the world when the news broke on Thursday evening, which just about sums up how isolated and lonely the Duke of Sussex has become, as Monday, today, marks the 5th anniversary of Megxit. Even his cousin, Princess Eugenie, his last remaining royal ally, has been cast out by the paranoid prince. Insiders say lonely Harry rarely leaves the couple's mansion in Montecito, and while Meghan strides forward with her lifestyle and podcast projects, he has no plans for any new filming with Netflix. The Sun understands he was not told about his father's hospital admission because the palace did not want to cause unnecessary alarm by contacting Harry 5,000 miles away. I'll translate that for you. What that really means is they didn't want Prince Harry to leak the information to the media. They don't trust this guy anymore, and they certainly don't trust his wife. But the Sun goes on that it is understood that the friendship with Eugenie floundered after she was photographed last April with Piers Morgan, a strong critic of Harry and Meghan. A friend said a dim view was taken of this as Piers had clashed with Meghan and Harry in the past. Understatement of the year. Eugenie has been supportive of Harry and Meghan for years and was right there at the beginning of their relationship, but it has now soured. The Sun also reveals that Harry has barely spoken to his family in years as he grows increasingly alone in California while Meghan launches a series of glitzy, heavily promoted solo projects. An insider told The Sun, first he was a spare to William, now he's increasingly looking like a spare to Meghan, and it's not a great look. It is also understood that there are no plans for any more Netflix shows with Harry, either in front or behind the camera, as the deal runs out. So, Brittany, we have a huge amount of breaking news to go through today. But firstly, how fascinating that it was Piers Morgan, the other man, who came between Eugenie, Harry, and Meghan. What do you make of it?
I do have to say it's a little bit of a surprise, but you got to think too, Prince Harry has left the UK, Dan. He is in the United States. And obviously, Piers Morgan is somebody who they can interact with. He is somebody who's sort of in that sphere. And so if they have chats and are familiar with him, I think that's totally fine. And Harry should not be threatened by that because he has purposely removed himself from the situation. But I always thought when it came to Harry potentially reconciling with his family, now that doesn't mean necessarily that everything goes back to the way it was by any stretch of the imagination, but I always thought it was kind of good that Princess Eugenie was there maybe as a bit of a lifeline in case Prince Harry was like really saying, hey, I need a life preserver, please come help and save me. And that she could have been a bit of that link. So I think that he has lost that. I think just compounds the loneliness and isolation that I'm sure he does feel. Now, this is all self-inflicted, constructed. But at the same time, I do feel a bit sorry for him in some ways because it can't be easy. And I think he was definitely dragged by Meghan to the United States under very false assumptions, and everything has sort of turned rotten. Nothing is better when you go to the other side looking for better green grass and all you're chasing really is green money. It just tends to turn brown.
Let me tell you, I don't feel sorry for him one bit, because the way he treated his family, I think, means that this is karma. It's interesting, the Eugenie thing, though, because I've reported on this for a number of years. So, firstly, you have to remember that she was disgusted, and Beatrice was disgusted too, by the Oprah Winfrey interview. And at that point, they were openly scathing of Harry and Meghan. But I think they understood that there were a couple of reasons why it was good for them to be, as you say, a conduit between Montecito and Buckingham Palace. There was a slight ulterior motive, though, Brittany, and I'm going to be honest about this. And by the way, can I be very clear? This is not me criticizing Princess Eugenie or Beatrice, but they were quite rightly very worried about the mud that Harry and Meghan might sling at Prince Andrew, their beloved father. And you'll note, Brittany, that actually any criticism of him was very muted in Spare, virtually non-existent in the Netflix series. And that was in part because Eugenie had maintained this relationship with Harry. So there was a certain degree of her, I wouldn't go as far to say using the Sussexes, but she knew that if she was close, she could potentially protect her father from any more negative publicity.
This time, it's reportedly centered around their longtime critic, Piers Morgan, and his strengthening ties with members of the royal family.
I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I will say, having looked at their relationship, I don't think Beatrice and Harry were as close as Eugenie and Harry were. And so I think there was a bit of a difference in how the sisters interacted with him, but I can understand why he maybe was muted in his response to Andrew if he wanted to protect them. But at the same time, he didn't really protect his father or his brother. So I'm just wondering, as well as that, if he didn't have that many interactions with Andrew, he just didn't have that much he wanted to say on the matter, because they are very self-obsessed in many ways. And so I think in a lot of ways, Andrew probably doesn't factor much on the scale to him at all, but he definitely, I think, is very sensitive, and we've heard this before, to comparisons between him and Andrew, because they're both sort of considered the spare of their generations and the challenges that they've had. And Harry didn't want to turn into an Andrew, and yet has somehow turned out worse than Andrew in that pursuit, which, again, all the irony here is really hard to ignore.
Indeed, he didn't want to be compared to the black sheep of the family, absolutely. But I think it is very telling, Brittany, and my reporting is that it certainly worked, because as you say, he had absolutely no problem going for Charles, going for Queen Camilla, going for Catherine, going for his brother, and Andrew really did avoid any serious criticism. Of course, the Piers Morgan issue is in part because he famously walked off Good Morning Britain after doubting Meghan Markle's tissue of lies during the Oprah Winfrey interview. And I think when it comes to that, Brittany, Piers has been proven right by history. She was lying.
Well, I mean, anybody who watched the interview who had any sort of understanding of how royalty works had to know that she was lying. There were certain instances, especially when it came to the children's titles and everything, where she's like, oh, he wasn't going to get one. Yeah, because the letter of patent says he wasn't going to get one. It's like right there. You can just read it. And she references it later in the interview. But what Meghan Markle was counting on is people being very ignorant of royalty, of how things work within the royal sphere. She was obviously playing very much to an American audience. And so that ignorance, I think, really did help her in that interview, which I think is very disappointing in a lot of ways, that people maybe who follow royals don't know that much about them. But I think over time, it has been 100% proven that Meghan Markle was telling a whole lot of, let's say, half-truths, mistruths, misdirections, you could argue lies, in that interview. And as time has gone on, that's been proven more and more to be the case.
And Brittany, this picture painted in the Sun feature of Harry's life is very sad. Totally isolated. His only friends now are the husbands of Meghan friends, who you know are reporting back to the Duchess. No plans to work with Netflix. One of his charities has now completely collapsed. And I would argue this is a picture of a guy who's deeply unhappy, not even entrusted by his father to get a tip off before the world that he's been in hospital. But actually,
Right.
my argument, Brittany, is he deserves this. Because actually, when you break that trust, it's impossible to get it back. And that's why so many of us warned Harry, if you cross those red lines in Netflix and in Spare, there is no going back. But the portrait printed of Harry in Montecito is certainly not the one that he tries to present as, oh, this is so brilliant and I don't miss the UK and I'm just so delighted to be here. Because that's not what your friends are saying.
Right. And it might be sunshiny and gorgeous weather in California, but you can also be absolutely miserable living there at the same time. And I think that's definitely the case for Harry. He was brought into this, I think, really having stars in his eyes. He was really thinking, in my opinion, that Meghan was a big star when he married her. He really thought that they would come to Hollywood, she would show him how to do things. They would be movers and shakers. And as he's done these things, he's realized, well, number one, he's not good at it. He's really not good at content production. Everything they've done is boring. And that goes on both of them because they've both been involved in most of their projects at this point. And he's just sort of miserable because he left his purpose, he left his family, he left his country, he left his heritage, so many different things because he was told that if he didn't do that, Meghan would maybe do something terrible to herself, that they would get divorced, something like that. And it's just been misery. And when you look at recent reports that Meghan really wants to be a billionaire, it's like so obvious that it's amazing he doesn't see it. Is that she saw dollar signs the entire time she was dating and in wedding marriage to him. It was all about the money. And so he might love her, but she only loved his money and his ability to maybe get her more of it. So if he's not aware of that by now, he should be. And the situation with his father, I mean, it depends on how long he was in the hospital. It might not be something where they felt he was going to stay there long enough to even deserve contacting him. And I think that makes sense. My parents have done the same thing to me. They're like, oh, we're real sick real early in the morning. They did go to the hospital and we don't only found out later in the day. So I don't think that's totally an indication of where things are at. We don't even know how early or if William was informed until after everything was done, how long he stayed. So I think there's some questions there. But yes, are they telling him anything important? No, definitely not.
No, and they're not even prepared to tip him off 5 minutes before the press statement goes out, which shows you the complete breakdown in trust.
Insiders claim the Sussexes are paranoid and sour, believing Morgan's access to senior royal signals yet another front in their battle for narrative control. Love him or loathe him, Piers Morgan has been one of the loudest voices calling out Harry and Meghan. From walking off Good Morning Britain after clashing over Meghan's Oprah interview, to endless columns slamming their choices, Morgan has branded himself as their fiercest critic. Now, with reports that he's rekindling royal friendships, the Sussexes see him not just as a journalist, but as an insider who could influence public opinion from within. According to sources, Harry and Meghan are furious at the idea of Piers gaining proximity to the royaless. They reportedly see it as a direct attempt to sideline them further, feeding the narrative that they're outsiders while their critics get closer to the family they left behind.
Harry isn't speaking to his family. He hasn't seen Charles since the PR stunt visit where he flew into London because he's so worried about his dad. Well, cancer doesn't just go away. And so actually, I knew that was a PR stunt at the time. It's proven to be a PR stunt now. What's one of the worst things for cancer? Stress. Yet Harry continues to choose to put his father through stress on a daily basis. I think it is shameful. But of course, yesterday, Brittany, we're meant to believe that Meghan Markle cares about the United Kingdom because we got this Mother's Day post and she posted some sort of lemon dessert, which again I thought looked revolting, my personal opinion. But she said our family tradition, Mothering Sunday in the UK. Now, Brittany, for our American viewers, we don't call it Mothering Sunday in this country. It's Mother's Day. And I think to even try and claim that she has any connection to a country that she clearly hates is just embarrassing. We didn't need that, Megsy.
We definitely did not. And I mean, even looking at the cake looks as fake as her love of the UK, let's be honest. And so it just didn't look all that good or appetizing or interesting. And we're supposed to believe that they're actually doing this today. I just totally don't buy it. The Kate looks awful. But yeah, she doesn't care about the UK. And she would if she was becoming queen or something like that, or they changed the line of successions and all of a sudden Harry was next in line for the throne, then she might care. But at this point, she definitely doesn't care about the UK. It's all for show, just like Instagram is. Instagram is a veneer of what you want people to see of you, not who you actually are. And that goes for pretty much everybody on Instagram. That's definitely 100% what Meghan is doing here. And it's just not very attractive or appealing. And she is so behind the game on the Instagram side. She is so like 10 years behind where people are on Instagram. It's really quite pathetic when you look at her account, how kind of dismal it is. And no wonder it's struggling to move. I haven't checked today, but it was stuck at 2.6 million for quite a while. And given her massive platform, why isn't her Instagram growing faster? It's because she's really struggling to get people to like her.
Yeah, she's still at 2.6 million, not to mention the number
Mhm.
of bots, by the way, Brittany. But anyway, this was just a publicity stunt because ping into our email boxes today is this, and the launch gets closer. Meghan writes to us, Brittany, ever since I can remember, I've been dreaming up easy ways to elevate the everyday into the exceptional. I always knew I wanted to turn these ideas into something real and to make beautiful items that spark connection and celebrate quiet, meaningful moments. Maybe mimic the magic of Montecito in a way us mere mortals, Brittany, us common people can recreate at home. And she says, I am so excited to introduce the As Ever collection to you this week. It's coming, folks. Every item is inspired by the ways I show care to the people in my life, like the lemon ginger tea blend, which is a fuss-free spin on the warm drink I make at home, using fresh lemons from the garden, or the crepe mix that transforms a typical weekend breakfast into a chance to reminisce. Crepes remind me of my time backpacking through France as a student, biting into these street-side thin pancakes filled with chocolate, fruit, fresh lemon and powdered sugar, or made savoury with ham and cheese. They are truly a canvas for flavour. I wanted to bring that memory and experience to you at home. Also, they're so easy to make. Of course. And then we get to the scam jam. Brittany, the scam jam, because she says, of course, you'll find the raspberry spread that started it all, presented in keepsake packaging that you can repurpose to tuck away love notes or special treasures, and to remember this pivotal moment with me. Think of it as our time capsule. What is she talking about? And by the way, she's not finished, Brittany. She's not finished. I'm sorry. By the way, once you've enjoyed every spoonful of this fruit spread, it's not scam jam, you may want to do what I do. Rinse the jar and use it as a small bud vase for flowers on your nightstand or to hold your pens on your desk. Thank you, Meghan. I think I'm okay without that. I hope when you see what I've worked so hard to create, you're encouraged to know that whatever life brings, you can do it too. Your value, your creativity, your joy, that is you, as it's always been and always will be. You are you, as ever and forever.
Oh, gosh.
It's not over. Someone once told me that the biggest risk you can take is deciding not to take one at all. Now, after careful planning and preparing, while also parenting, because remember, Brittany, she doesn't just give the kids to nannies all the time. Okay, she is parenting, I promise. It's time to bring As Ever from my home to yours, so you can make the everyday exceptional in an easy yet meaningful way. As Ever, Meghan. What a load of bullshit, Brittany.
To them, this isn't just about Piers. It's about loyalty, influence, and power. The irony is glaring. Harry and Meghan have spent years framing themselves as truth-tellers battling a hostile press. But by raging over Meghan's royal friendships, they risk proving their critics right, that they're obsessed with controlling the narrative and unable to tolerate dissenting voices. The optics of being paranoid and sour only reinforce the very labels they've tried to shed. On his side, Piers Morgan isn't backing down. He's continued to mock the Sussexes publicly, portraying them as thin-skinned, self-important, and out of touch. If his closeness to royal figures grows, he'll see it as vindication, proof that the palace trusts him more than it ever trusted Meghan and Harry.
I read that, like the email came through right before we came on, and I was like reading through it going, this is the worst thing I've ever read. She's trying so hard to make her brand like makes sense because if you've started a company and you know like the brand name and everything should connect and it like nothing is connecting and so she's bending over backwards in the wording to try to like justify it and it still doesn't work. And she's also using to note these same pictures that she's already used in her Instagram like a month ago, so we have no new pictures of as ever. And if she went backpacking in France, I would like a picture of that because I do not see her backpacking in France or anywhere ever. That just doesn't seem to be her jam, if you will.
So there's a
And
little news story. There's a little news story that we've never heard before. Oh, the crepe time in
mhm,
France. Yeah,
yes.
right.
Yeah, I don't believe
Backpacking
that in the
Meghan
slightest.
Markle.
Mm-mm. No. If backpacking means she put on a backpack and walked from her train station to the hotel, that would I imagine what she means by backpacking. I don't see her. She's not an outdoorsy person, really. So I just doubt she's traipsing through France, really backpacking through it. And it's also very self-obsessed. She's like, she's talking about love letters and what it represents to me and stuff like that. But it's like, but what are we supposed to do with this,
The
Megan?
time capsule. That piece of tat ripped
I
off
mean,
from
what
the
are you supposed to do with
Kardashians.
that?
No thanks. Will be going straight in the bin. And look, I just implore
Mhm.
everyone, do not buy from this collection out of curiosity's sake. What I will do, Brittany, is I will buy everything. Okay. I will buy everything in the same way that I sat through every second of Netflix.
Mm,
I will buy everything and we will
and tread.
taste it, we will try it, we will reveal it, we will use it for episodes here on this show. But don't buy it. Don't encourage this
Mm.
utter madness. And of course, Brittany, in stark contrast to what we saw on Mothering Sunday, no, Meghan, if you cared about the UK, you would understand it is Mother's Day. In stark contrast to that, we got yet again pitch perfect social media from the Prince and Princess of Wales, with
Mm.
Catherine writing, over the past year, nature has been our sanctuary. This Mother's Day, let us celebrate Mother Nature and recognize how our bond with the natural world can help not only nurture our inner selves, but remind us too of the role we play within the rich tapestry of life. See, she's not trying to sell us anything, Brittany. She's not
Mhm.
trying to pump pictures of herself to us. And I thought this video was just lovely. Watch. Oh, just
Mm.
beautiful, Brittany. I feel serene. I feel calm again after reading that Meghan Markle email. And I think the contrast couldn't be any greater, could it? The message from Meghan, Ms. Humanitarian, as if, is to say, spend lots of your money on
Mhm.
my really crappy projects. And then maybe you can have like a little taste of my life in Montecito, where I live in a $16 million mansion with 16 bathrooms. Catherine is saying, all I really needed over the past year was obviously my family, but to be in nature. And you can all be in nature too, because that's something that is completely free. And I just feel like those contrasting messages couldn't be any greater.
I mean, it's so wonderful to see Catherine doing so well post her cancer treatments. And it's wonderful to see a video like that where she's really just embracing nature and sharing with us an aspect of her journey because we don't know the full details of which cancer she had or what exactly the chemo treatments were like or of anything. But what she is telling us, I think, through a variety of social media posts throughout this last year is that it's not only just her family, but it's connecting with nature that has been, I think, a great comfort to her. And I think that's just glorious to see. And I think something that people can so connect with because we can all go out and we can all take a walk around our street. We can all enjoy the aspects, of the birds chirping and the trees moving with the breeze and leaves and the buds coming out for spring. I'm already seeing some buds on the trees when I went out for a walk yesterday, and it seems like they were all just plain. And then all of a sudden the spring is coming. And I think there's something beautiful in that. Now, would it have been great to get a picture of Catherine and the kids? Yes, but obviously some members of the media spoiled that last year, and so we did not get that, and some members of social media as well. But so glad to see she's doing well. It was a wonderful video to share. And obviously, the big question is, do they now have two dogs or one dog? Because we saw two dogs in the video. So I'm really curious to
Mm.
see what might be in
Will
store
we
if the
get a little
Wales's family has a new
introduction?
addition.
Yeah, indeed. And just a note to say, Catherine is on the cover of Hello this week. They still call her Kate, which I think is shameful, given Hello claims to be the magazine of the royal family. But its headline, Kate's Comfort, How Her Children Helped Her Heal. George, Charlotte, and Louis give her the sustenance to get through. Real contrast, though, Brittany, in terms of the coverage of Meghan Markle's latest project. If you look at this post from Royally Sage, they have been digging into the figures for With Love Meghan, and it's exactly what I predicted, Brittany. They say Rachel's show has created the only thing popular about it is making fun of it. So it got that hate watching early on, and then look at that dip, which just means this is not a hit. And then the Daily Express have some exclusive reporting, Brittany, revealing that Meghan Markle has been humiliated as insiders reveal what they really think of her. And a source told the newspaper, I think we're seeing the collapse of the Meghan as humanitarian narrative. You simply can't talk about dismantling institutions, advocating for women's rights and humanitarian causes, and then pivot straight into affiliate marketing, influencer style brand placements and monetizing your own taste. It's the kind of jarring contrast that's hard to ignore. And I think they're completely right, aren't they? This idea that Meghan is doing anything other than trying to be a third-rate Kardashian rip-off influencer is now for the birds.
Oh, I think it totally is. There's so much going on here when it comes to looking at Meghan. She could be doing some really, really great things. She could be, let's say, being this great humanitarian. She could be back being an actress. She could be doing the things that she claims that are a passion of hers, and yet she's nothing more than a Kardashian. Even when it comes to affiliate marketing, sort of the kind of funny thing is that she is doing the same thing I can do. The same thing a woman who follows her is already doing. And so she's no different now than any other influencer trying to make a buck. And it really actually, I think, downgrades her brand in a lot of ways. I think it was an absolute mistake to open the My Shop. I think that was a terrible, terrible idea. It just makes her look like she's just in it for the money. And in many ways, she is. I have no doubt she is in a lot of ways, but it would be so much more helpful if she, for like her future, if she could sort of get away with, I just want cash and really, really focus on, let's say, being the person that she claims to be. Because we've gotten a lot of reports this last week, things not going well on Team Sussex. And lots of problems going on that we've known for years and years, and her brand is just toxic. Her husband's brand is toxic, and something they've done to themselves. And I don't think this brand or this latest influencer strategy is going to do anything to alleviate that in the slightest.
And Brittany, breaking news on the ongoing charity racism scandal involving Prince Harry, Dr. Sophie, and Centre Barley. This new report from the Daily Telegraph this afternoon is headlined, Prince Harry sent unpleasant and imperious message to the charity boss. Now, let me take you inside this story, Sophie, because it's actually, sorry, Sophie, of course, is the woman who the email was sent to, Brittany, because it actually sounds pretty horrifying. The Telegraph reports the Duke of Sussex allegedly sent an unpleasant and imperious message to the head of an African charity he founded after she refused to issue a statement defending his wife. Prince Harry directly contacted Dr. Sophie Chandoka, the chairman of Centre Barley, following an awkward exchange she had with the Duchess of Sussex at a charity polo match in Miami last year. He initially asked his team to contact the Zimbabwean-born lawyer and request she issue a statement quashing any rumours of tension between her and the Duchess. However, after she refused to be drawn into the row, Prince Harry fired a direct message to her, allegedly demanding that she explain herself. According to sources, the note was unpleasant in tone and used imperious language that left the charity boss feeling taken aback. The Telegraph understands that her refusal to comply with the request to back Meghan contributed to the bitter dispute that this week saw the Duke resign as head of the HIV children's charity he co-founded almost 2 decades ago. The Telegraph understands that a member of Prince Harry's team initially asked Dr. Chandoka to issue a statement dismissing any suggestions of tension, but Dr. Chandoka, who felt she had been treated with disrespect during the charity day, refused, saying she did not want to become an extension of the Sussex PR machine. The Duke then contacted her directly to complain about her actions, with sources describing the message as unpleasant. A spokesman for Centre Bali confirmed the Duke had sent the message. They said, "This is true. There is a document." And of course, Dr. Chandoka directly accusing Prince Harry, Brittany, of being part of a cover-up over bullying. I just think this looks worse for him by the hour.
I mean, it's definitely not looking good. I feel like in some ways this is still a he said, she said. If they have a document, it would be great, I think, to share it at this point, to put all the cards out on the table, because all we have is a lot of mudslinging. And I don't think it's doing the charity at all any favors here. And we'll see how everything all shakes out. We're still in the preliminary aspects of the investigation. But I think what can be definitely concluded is that Harry and Meghan are toxic. They sort of bring the toxicity wherever they are. And that just continues to follow them. So it's actually, even, you could say, let's say, if at least some of the allegations aren't true, they simply exist and are believed because Harry and Meghan themselves has such a terrible public reputation. And so that is what is so contributing to a lot of this. So I just feel like the whole thing remains a lot of he said, she said. I'm waiting sort of for the Charity Commission to come up with a final statement, but this is interesting revelation from the Telegraph. I'd be curious. It didn't sound like they said they had actually seen the document, so I'd be curious to actually see it and if they would reveal it themselves. I think that would be sort of helpful here to see the full context of everything, because of course people can say they didn't like something, but what do the words actually say? That does sort of matter. But definitely not looking good for Harry and Meghan. They have a terrible reputation, which continues to just compound by the day. And it doesn't help as Meghan is looking to launch her product line, because I don't even think she cares about maybe distracting from Harry's mess. She's just, I'm sure, irate at him for disrupting her glorious product launch.
Yeah, I mean, this is hugely worrying for the entire Sussex brand, and really fascinating spot from Jen Carson Taylor on X, who writes, "Look who's reporting for the Telegraph on the Prince Harry bullying scandal, and it is Martin Evans, the newspaper's crime editor." So I'll just leave that there. Let's see where this goes. But I salute Dr. Sophie Chandoka for being so brave in terms of preparing to stand up both in court and in the media against the Sussexes.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to...
And for the Sussexes, that's the ultimate insult. This feud marks yet another chapter in the Sussex media saga. It shows how deeply Harry and Meghan remain entangled in the press cycle they claim to despise. And it raises a bigger question. If they can't rise above critics like Piers Morgan, how can they ever successfully redefine themselves beyond royal drama? In the end, this isn't just about Piers Morgan. It's about perception. Harry and Meghan risk looking bitter, isolated, and overly reactive, while their critics strengthen ties and gain influence. And if that pattern continues, paranoid and sour may become more than a headline. It could become their brand.